Man who saved pennies for 4 to 5 years cashes out. Arthur Ander was a supervisor on the Jackson School Board and was passionate about his job. All of the kids love him, and he was happy to look after them. The 73-year-old had a family of his own, but his wife couldn't help but question one habit that he had had for the last 4 to 5 years. The hobby turned into an obsession that would consume a lot more of his free time than what his wife liked. Arthur Anders had been collecting pennies for more than 4 decades and had always put his faith in them as he was a religious man. And as he got older, his connection to God only felt stronger for it. It was actually his religion that started the penny collecting. He felt that every penny he found was a gift from God, but he had no idea that he would find many more gifts throughout his life. Anders didn't know that after he picked up his first penny, more would keep appearing through his love. This soon became an obsession until he started saving his own pennies for his hobby. He also started making more decisions that would give him more pennies. He always made sure that his change had pennies in it. This meant that he soon had more pennies than he knew what to do with. Anders said, "I would never spend a penny. I would break $1 before giving up a penny." When the children he looked after figured out how important pennies were to him, they wanted to contribute. "I never allowed anyone, not even my wife nor children, to give me pennies without being compensated. And that he did, he paid them for the pennies they gave him." Anders kept his pennies in 5-gallon plastic jugs. Soon his collection reached a full 15 of them. He probably would have kept his obsession up if he hadn't figured out some when he had to renew his home affairs. He couldn't believe it. Anders' new home insurance didn't cover his penny collection, so he reluctantly decided it was time to visit the bank and cash in his most prized possession. Anders had no idea how much money his collection would amount to. The bank employees looked at Anders rolling his containers in on dollies and stared at him in utter confusion. Their eyes popped as they took in the sight of the sheer amount of pennies. Anders worried they would turn him away. He approached the questionable expression behind the desk and asked them to cash his pennies in. "How many?" the woman asked. Bank Vice President Jenny Cole told reporters that it was not a typical day at the bank when Anders rolled in with his collection of pennies on a dolly. "I'm not sure exactly," Anders said. "I would guesstimate about 400,000–500,000 pennies." The woman stared at him in shock. How would they be able to count all these pennies? But when they finally did, the amount Anders had saved all these years was incredible. It took at least 5 hours to process his pennies through a coin counting machine until the sum was revealed. Anders saved up an incredible $5,136.14 through collecting pennies for 4 to 5 years. But what was he going to do with his saved money? After 4 to 5 years of saving, Anders was able to put the money to good use and spend it on a dental bill that had just been issued to him. Anders collected pennies not as a sign of greed, but as a symbol of faith that he was being looked after by the man upstairs, the universe, the penny gods, or whatever you might believe in. His quirky hobby turned out to be a brilliant reminder of how much little things matter. Who would have thought a penny a day could someday bring you $5K? It seems like Anders' steady patience and consistent well-wishing has paid off for him. The extra bonus of income came just in time for him to pay a medical bill. It is said that the world works in mysterious ways, and for Arthur Anders and the result of his penny collection, that motto is certainly true.